Hey everybody, this is Matthew For's Daily Vlog number two. It's only the second one ever. This is session number two on Friday, April 28th. Um, and so this morning I had an interview with a Japanese venture capital firm. How did I get an interview with a Japanese venture capital firm? Two, well, no, Okay, so not more than two things. Okay, one is I speak Japanese. Another is that I'm an Uber driver. Um, and so I was driving for Uber, and this Asian woman named Orie gets in the car. So I think she's Japanese. So she is, and so we start talking Japanese. And so I asked her what her work is. She says she works for a venture capital firm. So I got really excited. Um, Oh, so this means that I have to explain the reason why I got really excited that Aurier works for a venture capital firm. It is because 2 months ago I came to the Bay Area basically just with the goal of getting into tech. Honestly, like I was open to a lot of stuff. I did have particular areas that I was thinking about, but like I wasn't sure whether I would do something on the technical side or the business side, like even like that basic. Um, and so I started going to meetups, and so one meetup in particular really made an impression on me, and this was an AI conference during the day. I actually had to pay for it, and it's the only meetup that I paid for, and I actually paid a lot, like $70. The reason that I paid that much is because it was a conference on AI, and AI is specifically my interest. It's my biggest interest of all of the things I'm interested in. Is artificial intelligence. And the other AI conferences that had been were very expensive, like hundreds of dollars. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'm not gonna miss this opportunity to go to this AI conference. And this is one of those cases where, um, like, there is a really strong connection between money and value. Like, this is the most expensive thing, the most expensive meetup I went to, but it was also the one that I got the most value from. Uh, and maybe one of the reasons, and definitely like, okay, so the fact that there were a lot of venture capitalists at this meetup, maybe that had to do something something to do with the fact that it was expensive. But anyway, there was several venture capitalists there. So having several venture capitalists in the same space, um, that's not like their office or something, like, and especially getting a chance to like listen to what they have to say about their opinions about stuff, and like actually ask them questions. So that is what was going on. Like that's pretty cool. That's not common. That's kind of rare. That's kind of an awesome opportunity. So that was the first time that I have ever really heard like just honest opinions and talk from venture capitalists, and like, yeah, audience member asked them questions. So they asked them questions about like, at what point would you start like like looking at a startup like seriously, um or like, how do you know, how do you decide like when a startup has like a really big opportunity, like stuff like that. And so like there was four venture capitalists, and they talked about their background at the beginning. That was really cool to hear about that. um but okay, so for example, one of them was this elderly white guy who had a background as an electrical engineer and then got into venture capital like later in life. There was a younger Asian woman who represented Chinese capital, and she just, had basically got into venture capital, like, not too long after college. She was the least experienced of them there. And then there was a Russian hacker type guy who, no, actually, I'm, yeah, I think he was a hacker, but also an economist. And this dude was just a badass. Like, he holy shit. He was, oh my god. Okay, basically, he uh yeah, he created an app, like a game that became really big really fast. And then he started just like um pulling like really talented hackers from like um hacker competitions like in Eastern Europe. Oh yeah, he's some from somewhere in Eastern Europe. And like just like scanning the markets for like all of these things and being like the first one to like, point out like a opportunity and just investing really, really smart. And so he's just like now he has his own venture capital fund. Like it's literally him. And from money that he started out, not with a lot of money, just like, a normal guy. So for him to have done that, like, it's just amazing. Um, and he was when he talked, like, you could tell that he knew his shit. And honestly, like, I could see the dynamic of the venture capitalists within themselves. They, like, gave him respect. So this guy was a star, like among venture capitalists. Um, but anyway, so I realized that venture capitalists look at the economy from a very like they look at science and tech as well as the economy from a very like holistic um looking at the entire system sort of view, right? Um and like actually that's the type of view that I value most, and the one that I and it was really like I had found sort of like um maybe like you could say like role models, because I had found people that honestly had the type of mindset that I like respect and that I like endeavor to, and so like it got me thinking that maybe the ideal career for me would be venture capital. And I had already been thinking along really similar lines in the past because I was doing scientific research when I was at Rice University. um, well, yeah, when I was a student there, but actually the research I did was at like other institutions. But anyway, um, so I came to the feeling that I rather than just focusing on one small topic, spending all my time like creating new information, discovering new information, I would rather like just be taking in information and like synthesizing it and like integrating it, and making sense of the whole, and more focusing on connections and relationships between parts rather than parts themselves. So I was thinking that like instead of being a scientist, I would rather like just have a bunch of money and decide which science is going to be done, or create scientific research institutions or like fund research, all sorts of investing, scientific type investing sort of stuff, right? Um, so I was thinking I'd rather do that, and I was like, well, like I could either just manage someone else's money or I could do it with my own money. So I was already like thinking about that sort of stuff. Um, like after having done a bunch of scientific research. But honestly, at that time, I didn't know that basically, okay, that's venture capital. Because I hadn't like studied finance. Like I didn't know about what venture capital really meant. Like I had very vague idea of what venture capital. Like if you had asked me at that time, what's venture capital, I would be like, I wouldn't have been able to give a very good answer. So like I made this connection that like, oh shit, venture capital, like technically, like people think about it, so people think about it like it's a financial type thing, but I mean, it's also really, really related to science and technology. But actually, this brings up an interesting point, which is that when venture capitalists are looking at a company and evaluating it, they're not really evaluating it on like how much good it'll do for society or on the um, cleverness or innovation of the science or the technology behind the product. Like, that's the stuff that I'm interested in. No, they're not looking at that. They are simply looking at the money. That's the only thing that a successful venture capitalists look at. They're looking at what is the percent chance that it will give a certain return, like in relation to, a given investment that I'm going to make, like that sort of thinking, right? It's just what interests them is, will this be big financially, right? Um, so that's not my mindset naturally. So I don't know if I would be a good venture capitalist. So it's like I have this like dilemma. Um, so there's another type of sort of profession that might be a little more close to what I would be interested in, which is like grants. So like managing the funds of some grant. Um, so then you would like, like say like the National Science Foundation. So if you work for the National Science Foundation as a like say like a grant writer, I think that is what it would be, a grant writer. You can decide. You can basically decide which research will get funded. Um, but like that wouldn't be satisfying to me, because um I would just be like a cog in a big system, like it wouldn't really be a huge amount of power that I would be able to have in that situation. So I guess the conclusion is that my only option for what I really want is to independently make a lot of money and then just fund whatever the fuck I want to fund, whatever sort of scientific research I want to fund. And I would fund the super high risk, super way out there, crazy cockamamie, really like just intellectually interesting, unusual scientific research. Like, I would be hiring the mad scientists. So, I wouldn't even be the mad scientist. I would be the, like, power, like, the strings behind the mad scientist. That's, man, I literally, guys, you just witnessed my first time ever having the idea to do that sort of thing. Now I have a new purpose in life. Yay. Um, okay. So, um, anyway, so you can see why I'm interested in venture capital. So, I just had to convey a little bit to Aurea of what I just conveyed to you about my interest in venture capital, in conjunction with the fact that I lived in Japan and I'm really passionate about Japanese language and culture, and I speak Japanese. Um, and I was just polite and conversational. So she was like, "Oh, we have a part-time position that you could fill." I was like, "Wow, well that would I'm open to opportunities." Um, and so she set up an interview for me with the managing director of this Japanese venture capital firm. Um, and that was a couple weeks ago. And today was the interview. So I went in. It was in Menlo Park. And I met with the managing director. He asked me some questions. I asked him some questions. He said they didn't have anything open right now. So I don't think anything's going to come of it. But yes, I have interviewed at a Japanese venture capital firm. So yeah. Um, and then I met my friend at Planet Fitness. That would not be my gym of choice, by the way. And we worked out. I wanted to see what his training routine was. So I just followed along what his routine was. It's pretty different from what I do. Um, yeah. And then then I just went back to the apartment, and then I met with this guy. Um, like I said, I'm not gonna for the time being. I'm not gonna be revealing true names in this video log. Um, like I said, for the time being. And so let's say his name is Albus. Okay, Albus. That's a good one. His name's Albus. Okay, so Albus is the organizer of like a marketing consultancy in the valley, and so he gives presentations to like startup founders. Mainly he targets startup founders, and uses the principles of neuroscience to explain marketing. And I have a neuroscience background, and I met him at a meetup networking event like a month and a half ago. And he asked if I wanted to help him out with his consultancy. Um, so I said, yeah, that sounds great. And so I met with him at a cafe, and we talked about the plans for moving forward. And then I went with him to the Mission Minion, which is a minion. So I'm Jewish. So what is a minion? So minion, it has something to do with the meaning of 10, and it's like uh, some sort of prayer service. She's supposed to have at least 10 men. Um, and but like so what we went to, so that's what a minion technically is. But what we went to is basically just a Friday evening Shabbat service. I would not have gone to it if Nathan didn't ask if I want to go, and he said, there'd be good networking opportunities. So we went. So I went to that. And met some Jewish people. Yeah. So that was my day. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And keep it classy.